iTunes Originals.
Its arms around me and bathe my skin in water cool and cleansing and feel what it's like to be new. 'Cause in my head there's a Greyhound station where I send my thoughts far off destinations, so they may have a chance of finding a place where they're far more suited than
Chris and I had met through a friend of a friend, and we would just do these weekend recording projects where Chris would have some songs, or I would have some songs. And
the first time we did anything, I rented an 8-track in Seattle, and I went up to Bellingham for the weekend, and we recorded 6 or 7 songs.
There was no kind of sense of there being a band at that point. I mean, at that point, it was kind of like, okay, I'm going to write the songs and play them, and Chris will record them and, produce them and kind of add his, touches and flurries here and there where, he saw fit. And I certainly don't think there was any kind of thoughts of there being like a band coming out of that at the time. Somewhere along the lines, I decided that this Bonzo Dog Band song that was in the Magical Mystery Tour called Death Cab for Cutie would make a really great band name. And if I would have known now how many times I would have to answer the question as to where the name came from, I probably would have chose a different name. But, hindsight, of course, is 2020. But speaking of hindsight, I mean, the song Hindsight that's on the first cassette, that was a song that at the time wasn't really that kind of...
It was part of the low priority list. Maybe not super low priority list, but lower than what was already there. And it was sort of the guinea pig. It was like, can we just run the drums through the bass amp? I think we can. Like, let's try it. Let's see what happens. And can we stack up like 4 tremolos on top of one another for all the guitars? Sure, we can. I guess we can. So it's like all of those things ended up getting smashed into one place. And that's, I mean, I really think that that's one of the things that makes that song work, is all that smash, all that, like, sort of that little ball of fuzz. It starts to sound like just a big rock song when it's all hi-fi and there's a bunch of cymbals and like huge guitars, and you know the guitars are all kind of small, and it's I don't know, I like it. It feels really good. Bellingham, Washington, to me, is Elsinore. It's all the bands that were on Elsinore. It's the Revolutionary Hydra and Pacer and Appleseed Apart and Magnetic Bicycle Craft and all those bands. And I think that half the drive for me, when I moved to Bellingham and I started recording music, and I was like, I'm going to record music and I'm going to make it real good and stuff. And I'd be over at Ben's house and we'd be recording something and we'd be working on it for like 3 days. And in those 3 days, one of the Revolutionary Hydra guys would have brought us 2 new albums. Over the course of a week, like they've tracked 28 songs on their 4 tracks. And I love that feeling of like, there's this race, there's this like you have to move faster because you're busy listening to your Yes records and you guys are taking all your cues from Guided by Voices, and I better hurry up.
The employment pages, that one has always been I think probably one of my top 5 to top 10 songs of ours, just because when we kind of all kind of ended up moving to Seattle, coming from Bellingham, it was kind of, at the time, like an end of an era, I think, for everybody, and, a period in people's lives of kind of living kind of closer together and kind of more communal kind of element. Cheap rent and cheap beer and, shows every weekend and stuff like that. But that's always been one of my favorite songs, just because I kind of see it as like, a transition between two periods in my life. And the Employment Pages is very much like about me just sitting around being restless and trying to find a job, while, the money's slowly running out in the new city. So
we spread out and occupy the cracks in the urban streets. Idle now, I rearrange the furniture as you sleep, as you sleep, as you sleep. It's so appropriate, the way we amplify the sound. And then the neighbors drop by and they ask to turn it down again. It's so appropriate, the way we amplify the sound. And then the neighbors drop by and they ask to turn it down again. I was truly failing, but you were gone and I was home, calling around, but nothing was found worthwhile. Spread out and occupy the cracks in the urban streets. Idle now, I rearrange the furniture as you sleep, as you sleep, as you sleep.
I was seeing a girl for a while who we went to school together, but she, her parents lived off of I-5, and I think there's a 405 in Portland, and not one in San Francisco, but I mean there's a 405 anywhere. There's a beltway around I-5, and for me that song was kind of an early Heartbreak kind of song. I mean, kind of I just remember making that drive from Bellingham to a little city off the 405 with a great amount of anticipation and excitement. And then as that relationship fell apart, I felt I wanted to document it in some way. So I think when we were making the first record, Chris had a 4-track, so I pulled his 4-track out and just did a version of that song just with 2 guitars and 2 vocals, just really pretty straightforward. And then when we were putting together the track listing for the Forbidden Love EP, we just were kind of looking at what we had laying around, like, bits and pieces here and there, and that just kind of came up. It was like, well, we have that, and we all listened to it. It's like, yeah, that'd be a good thing to put on the EP, because it's a perfect song for an EP. It's an alternate version of a song that exists on a record, but it's different, and people who are kind of into that kind of thing will probably enjoy it.
Took the 405 and drove a stake down into your center and stated that it's never ever been better than this. I hung my favorite shirt on the floorboard, wrinkled up from pulling, pushing, and tasting. Twisting the truth that keeps me thrown askew. Misguided by the 405, cause it led me to an alcoholic summer. I missed the exit to your parents' house hours ago. Red wine and the cigarettes hide your bad habits underneath the patio. Twisting the truth that keeps me thrown askew. You keep twisting the truth that keeps me thrown askew.
It's interesting because a movie script ending is coming from the same place as the employment pages. I mean, I had a friend who, for Christmas one year, gave us all found photos from like a thrift store, and they have little boxes of old photos, and the one that he gave me was a photo of like an old man kind of like looking back at a camera, like, over like a beach with a boat in the background, kind of this very nostalgic, whimsical kind of photo and kind of moment. And I tend to be attracted to those kind of moments and that sentiment a lot. And for me, I mean, a movie script ending is as much like saying goodbye to Bellingham, and there are references in the song to, shop fronts on Holly and the air on Railroad, making the same sounds as when I was there before, and a reference that probably nobody ever would really catch, but something that I always thought was kind of a nice wink. And it's saying goodbye to a city, but also the city that represents a period in my life.
I feel like with a movie script ending, I can almost feel all those pans across Railroad and like the sort of the slow fade from Holly to the Beaver, and I know all about the bottoms on those bar stools. So it's really sentimental. It's nice. It's got a geographic center to it. And because we've been all those places together, it's sort of a travelogue. It's like flipping through Polaroids in a way.
cars on blocks and houses run down, and color me stunned, and wake the children when I'm done, and put the details in a jar and bury them underwater. We'll gather up the family and display our diseased organs, and we'll call it pride. We'll celebrate tonight, tax-free and always under price. And color me stunned, and wake the children when I'm done, and put the details in a jar and bury them underwater.
The biggest change with Transatlanticism was the drummer. Michael left the band and we hired Jason McGurr to be our drummer. And that was the first, when we were playing with Michael, it came together musically to a degree, and he's a great guy and we all got along, but it didn't, for whatever reason, you know, maybe it was us, maybe it was him, I'm not sure. It's sort of irrelevant, but it always felt like Nick and Ben and I and a fourth person. I mean, from the tail end of Something About Airplanes, where things sort of went south with Nathan, from then on, it was, I mean, like the whole We Have the Facts process was Ben and Nick and myself, and that was it. And we learned how to operate as a three-piece and just like making all our own decisions and being a really compact unit. And I think that we never, you know, that fourth slot never really got opened up for Michael. And with Transatlanticism, it was the first time for me since the first record, since Something About Airplanes, where it really felt like a band, where it felt like four people together making decisions and working on music together. So that's the biggest change.
Yeah, and I think that because we had known Jason for so long, I mean, I had known Jason longer than I'd known Chris, you know, and just as somebody around town who played music and was a really great drummer. And from the day he walked in, he was just like, all right, what are we working on? There's no tryout. There's no, well, let's give you a week. Well, you know, see if you pass the hangout test or whatever kind of, you know, see if we can haze you into the band or something like that. No, it's just kind of like, oh yeah, you're in the band. That's the way, there's no reason to kind of think otherwise, you know.
I've got a hunger, twisting my stomach into knots that my tongue is tied off. My brain's repeating, if you've got an impulse, let it out. But they never make it past my mouth. Ba-ba, this is the sound of settling. Ba-ba. Just around the bend, I can't wait to go gray. And I'll sit and wonder of every love that could have been, if I'd only thought of something charming to say. Ba-ba, this is the sound of settling. Ba-ba, ba-ba. my stomach into knots.
I think that having the album be called Plans, I mean, I think that the tone of so many of the songs is far more optimistic, and I think that you can't really make plans unless you are optimistic, unless you have something to look forward to. You know, there's a sense of optimism and kind of looking forward to something kind of larger than oneself on this record. I mean, there are also some very dire songs about death, but I think that even those songs are dealt with in a certain way, a certain tenderness to them that, you know, I think that, you know, justifies having the album be entitled Plans. And I think that Transatlanticism, for me personally, was such like, you know, it was like one long goodbye, you know. And I wanted as much on this record to be some hellos on the record rather than a series of goodbyes, you know.
I once knew a girl in the years of my youth, with eyes like the summer, all beauty and truth. But in the morning I fled, left a note and it read, someday you will be loved. And I cannot pretend that I felt any regret, 'cause each broken heart will eventually mend, just as the blood runs red down the needle and thread. Someday you will be loved. You'll be loved, you'll be loved, like you never have known. And the memories of me will seem more like bad dreams, just a series of blurs, like I never occurred. 'Cause someday you will be loved. May feel alone when you're falling asleep. Every time tears roll down your cheeks, but I know your heart belongs to someone you've yet to meet. Someday you will be loved. You'll be loved, you'll be loved, like you never have known. And the memories of me will seem more like bad dreams, just a series of blurs, like I never occurred. 'Cause someday you will be loved. You'll be loved, you'll be loved, like you never have known. And the memories of me will seem more like bad dreams, just a series of blurs, like I never occurred. 'Cause someday you will be loved. 'Cause someday you will be loved.
I Will Follow You Into the Dark. I mean, there's references to going to Catholic school in the song, and I was brought up Catholic, and I think for me, I've been kind of finding it harder to kind of accept so many of the things that I was brought up being told I have to accept. One day I just had this idea of like, I think it was like such a beautiful sentiment to have this idea of like, nobody knows what happens to us after we die. I mean, the Pope knows about as much about what happens to us after we die as I do, or you, or anybody else in this room. So I had this idea of, I thought it'd be really nice to kind of have this sentiment about following somebody else into the dark. I mean, we're all going to die someday, and we don't know what it is, and the fact that we don't know what that is, to me, that registers as dark. You know, I'm following you into the dark. I don't know what's there. I don't know, what we're walking into, and that kind of triggered a series of kind of like images in my head about just kind of like being in like an unlit room, just kind of stumbling around trying to find out where you are. and I will follow you into this dark place, but we'll be together. It won't be like alone there, you know, so.
Love of mine, someday you will die, but I'll be close behind. I'll follow you into the dark, no blinding light or tunnels to gates of white, just our hands clasped so tight, waiting for the hint of a spark. And if heaven and hell decide that they both are satisfied, and illuminate the nose on their vacancy signs, if there's no one beside you when your soul embarks, then I'll follow you into the dark. In Catholic school, as vicious as Roman rule, I got my knuckles bruised by a lady in black, and I held my tongue as she told me, son, fear is the heart of love. So I never went back. And if heaven and hell decide that they both are satisfied, and illuminate the nose on their vacancy signs, if there's no one beside you when your soul embarks, then I'll follow you into the dark. You and me have seen everything to see, from Bangkok to Calgary, and the soles of your shoes are all worn down. The time for sleep is now, but it's nothing to cry about, 'cause we'll hold each other soon in the blackest of rooms. And if heaven and hell decide that they both are satisfied, and illuminate the nose on their vacancy signs, if there's no one beside you when your soul embarks, then I'll follow you into the dark. And I'll follow you into the dark.
You know, the first couple records, I think, were written with about exactly as many songs that ended up being on the record. You know, there wasn't a lot of surplus, and I think that earlier on I just would kind of wait for like a moment to hit me and feel really inspired, and then, you know, then pick up a guitar and then try to write a song. But in recent years, I've just found myself just making an effort just to get up in the morning and work on music and try to write something. And it can be a very difficult kind of roller coaster ride to be on when you spend all day and all your efforts trying to make something work and it doesn't work. It's the worst feeling in the world, because you leave that day of work or that day of, you know, attempting to write just going, am I ever going to write a song again? Is this, you know, if I bottomed out or whatever, and then, you know, then the next day you write something you're really happy with and you're on top of the world. And that's always the drive, you know, is just to continue experiencing that moment of satisfaction and elation when you finish something that you're really proud of.
Here we go! It was 100 degrees as we sat beneath a willow tree. His tears didn't care, they just hung in the air and refused to fall or to fall. I knew I made a horrible call, and now the state line felt like the Berlin Wall. There was no doubt about which side I was on. My head is weak, my heart always speaks.